Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of Hybrid Fitness Report. I'm Paul Reynolds.
I'm Jude Reynolds.
And this week, our main focus is going to be the Hybrid Games, including an event that's just happened. Before we talk about the Hybrid Games, Jude, this weekend was the first event in the European Hyrox calendar for this season over in Maastricht in the Netherlands. How did that go?
We had a lot of competitive times with a lot of the Elite 15 doubles going there, and also those just below looking to qualify. We had a little bit of drama in terms of the judging. So we had a few athletes sort of post a lot about that. Namely, Jeremy McConnell and his partner Aitor. They got a 40-second penalty, I believe. I think there was 4 penalties of 10 seconds on the burpees. Now, I was watching the live stream, and the way that I was watching it, how I saw it on the screen, was Aitor was taking off with a staggered stance. Quite obviously, I was live commenting, and I said this before anything had happened, was Aitor is taking off really staggered. I wonder if he's going to get a penalty for that. They then finished that length of burpees, continued down the next one, and that was when you couldn't quite see on the live stream, but apparently Jeremy had kicked the bin, walked off, and they got disqualified because of, I think it was argumentative attitude towards the judges. We don't exactly know what was said, but again, Jeremy came out and was like, yeah, he did argue. So him and Aitor, which were one of the sort of big names in that competition, were out. We also had some controversial judging on the wall balls with Liam McCrory and Danny Ray. Mainly Danny Ray's wall balls and also Sean Noble. So the rule in Hyrox is your hip crease when you squat down on the wall ball has to go below parallel or below knee height. So when you squat down, basically you want your bum as close to the ground as possible to avoid any doubt in terms of your form. There was footage of Danny Ray and Sean Noble in particular doing their wall balls, seemingly perfectly fine, but then you had a judge standing there with their hand level with their knee in sort of this motion, no repping, no repping, no repping. And I think Sean Noble was on for an incredibly good time, but he ended up getting...
He was going for mid-55s, and it just killed
for an
his
incredible
completely.
time. But he had about 20 no reps in a row. And he just thought, I'm not going to do this before Hamburg, being an Elite 15 race. I'm not going to sort of do 150 wall balls for no reason at the end of a race to finish. So he dropped out with 25 reps to go. Danny Ray, because he was in the Elite 15 doubles, just swapped to his partner Liam, who continued the wall balls. But again, both scenarios, 2 big names and 2 big judging calls to no rep about 20 in a row. So it's weird because we've been calling for sort of strict judging to stop people getting times where they're doing half reps and throwing the ball against the target, but I don't think it's sort of severely over strict judging that we're looking for. I think it's fair and accurate judging. So as long as we can, it's like the sleds. For me personally, I don't want light sleds, I want heavy sleds, but I want fair and evenly consistent heavy sleds. Just like the judging. Consistency, as we know in Hyrox, is going to be sort of their main focus in terms of how they're going to run the competition. So, first European race was always going to have some drama surrounding it.
Yeah, and Graham Halliday came out as well and said he was just looking for better communication. So I think some of it, as you say, is the judging standard, and some of it is people felt or perceived that there wasn't good communication of any penalty happening at all, or that there was no warning before the penalty. Now, it's the kind of thing where with Hyrox coming out so quickly and saying, yeah, we got Sean's judging wrong. It's kind of they're not coming out and saying, well, you win some, you lose some. Where you go, oh no, is that going to be me next? Well, not me, because they're not going to judge me harshly anyway. But you know what I mean. No, I don't think anyone's coming out there going, "Oh no, it's the judging's getting all random," because they're saying actually that was wrong, and his wall balls were legit. So it sucks for Sean, but clearly they're trying to get what you're talking about, which is firm but fair and consistent judging, well communicated. So it was a bad situation, but I'm encouraged by the communication afterwards.
But that does seem to be one thing they're good at after Worlds with the whole sled dilemma. They also came very quickly out and made an official statement saying, "We hear you. We're looking to correct it, this and that." So obviously they're not going to be perfect. They're a new and far too quickly growing organization
Right.
to keep up perfectly. So I mean, as long as they're receptive and as long as they are genuinely trying to improve day on day, then that's all we can really ask for, to be honest.
Right. Right. The other big European hybrid fitness race was in Glasgow over the weekend. That was the Hybrid Games. Now, Hybrid Games is very, very Hyrox-ish. So it's kind of a perfect event for the majority of us who can't get all the Hyrox tickets we want. If you want something that's almost identical to Hyrox, then the Hybrid Games is really it. And if you like Hyrox but would like to run a little bit less, it's even better. So you were there, and we'll talk about how you got on shortly. But first of all, I'll just give folks a rundown of what the Hybrid Games event is. So as with all of these, the standard is run followed by station and repeated. And as of right now, or as of yesterday's event, there are 9 stations. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, 9 stations, and you were telling me before that that's being increased to 10 stations as of the next Hybrid Games event. So yesterday's event, and the way they've been up to this point, is as follows. 600-meter run, and all the runs are 600 meters, barring the last one. So 600-meter run, followed by a 50 calories on the assault bike, and then all the subsequent 600-meter runs are interspersed with 100 wall balls, and that's at the same weight standards as Hyrox, 6 for men and 4 for women. 1,000-meter row, 80-meter burpee broad jumps. The other non-Hyrox station, other than the assault bike, then is the 50 dumbbell snatches, and that's at 20 kilos for the guys and 10 for the ladies. 100-meter sandbag lunges, 20 kilos and 10. 200-meter farmer's carry, 24 kilos and 16, then 1,000-meter ski erg, and then the last station is a 60-meter sled push at 152 or 102 kilos, followed by the zombie run at the end, or at least judging by what you look like, it's the zombie run at the end for 200 meters, or you were saying felt like about 30 miles run at the end.
Yeah.
To run up a little slope, which is what you want at the end of a race like that. Run up a little slope and then collapse in a heap in front of the scoreboard. So that's what Hybrid Games is. Before we get into how things went in Glasgow, what's it like with the very different orders? So obviously you got the 2 different events, the dumbbell snatch and the assault bike, which makes things different. But presumably the fact that the wall balls are up front and the sled pushes at the end must make a big difference in some ways.
First and foremost, in terms of the layout, it was super simple. Like, even if you're used to the order of Hyrox, how they laid it out in Glasgow was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in an order. So
Right.
9. So as soon as you came in the inn, which is the same concept as Hyrox, you would start with your station on the far left-hand side and just work your way down. And I can appreciate, because the running, there's less running, the need for space, and also because the popularity is a lot smaller, meaning you can sort of, I guess, afford to logistically pack it like that. Whereas it's harder for Hyrox, I think, sometimes. But yeah, the stations were in chronological order, so it wasn't hard to keep track of. Specifically, you said the assault bike and the wall balls. The assault bike, I didn't seem to add or take away much. It was just whatever the first station it shouldn't be too tough,
Right.
because it
Right.
is the first thing you're doing, so you should be sort of nice and fresh relatively then. But the wall balls, yeah, like you said, they're second and not 10th, or sorry, 8th in Hyrox, so it's very, very different feel to it, along with it being open weight. So I train with 12 kilogram balls and race with 9 kilogram balls, and also train with 9 as well. This being 6, and also second, meant it didn't, like, I did 100 unbroken without sort of much of a struggle.
How would you say Hybrid Games compares to Hyrox for someone who's new to hybrid fitness racing? Is this an easier or a better or more fun starting point, or wouldn't you say there's any particular difference between this and Hyrox?
I think atmospherically, I think starting off with this might be better, just because it is Hyrox, but on a sort of population-wise, I guess you could say, far smaller scale. Walking into a Hyrox compared to walking into a Hybrid Games, the layout and the vibe is very similar, but it's just massively accentuated in a Hyrox. So if you're sort of less sure of yourself, don't really want as many eyes on you, and don't want the sort of really can somewhat be, but in a good way, in my opinion, aggressive atmosphere. So the atmosphere is still good. You still got people in and around the stations, people cheering you on, but like I said, it's probably just like a fifth of the amount of people, and it's not as loud, it's not quite as crowded. So I think it's a lot more of a tame starting point, but the race itself, little bit quicker, very similar.
So would you say in terms of atmosphere, it's a little bit more like a Decker than a Hyrox?
I'd say halfway between the two. Yeah, I'd say it's more high. It's halfway between in terms of atmosphere, a Hyrox and a Decker. Decker's quite mellow. This would be a little bit above that, and then Hyrox is sort of one below metrics even, which we'll get to eventually. But yeah.
So
atmosphere wise,
it's a very good starting point. And
yeah.
And do you know offhand when the next Hybrid Games event is?
Yes, I have a race in London in November on the 22nd. The XL, I think it starts on the 21st. There's November 21st and 22nd. I'm on the 22nd. That's the first race, I believe, in which they'll add the 10th station being Slidpole.
Right. But they've only done a few events in their history, right? So they're not looking at championships or anything. They're just
no, I think they've done one Liverpool, two Newcastle. I might have missed one, but they've done at least 3, maybe 4. This was their 5th, I believe.
So still relatively new on the scene compared to Decker and Hyrox. Okay, so how did your race go?
I think it went well. I went in there with no time expectation. So with this race, what I actually found out getting to the venue was the race that they did in Newcastle was slightly shorter. I believe all the top athletes that competed in Glasgow when they raced here versus Newcastle were all saying this was more true to size. So the runs were actually 600 meters. I believe in Glasgow the times were a lot quicker. The runs were a bit shorter. So I came third in my age group, which was a really actually competitive age group, which is why I was actually quite happy with that. The 2 guys that beat me were Charlie Botterill and George Gurney, who I knew going there were probably going to be the 2 favorites. So I was happy with third. I got another flag, which was cool. But it was just mainly sort of gaining experience for my race in November. I wanted to sort of know how my body would really respond to a race like this. I haven't raced a race like this since Worlds in Chicago. This was probably the first race I'd say that I could relate to a Hyrox. It's the closest thing I've done to a Hyrox since then. So it was mainly just really good experience, really good piece of training, race experience. It's good to test my running with a bunch of stations again, because since then I've done a metrics, I've done a Deca, which is just too short to compare to a Hyrox, whereas this
so 400 meters for the Deca rather than 1,000 for each lap.
500, yeah.
Okay, 500 for each lap. So half the distance of Hyrox. Right.
Yeah, so this was only 600, but it did feel a lot, I think, because the station's closer to a Hyrox, because, again, like a good time, which I got was under 54 minutes, so the duration to a Hyrox is there and about the same. So, yeah, went well. I feel like I paced it, not perfectly, I feel like I paced it reasonably well. I was conservative. I felt conservative up until, as always, the burpees. Just during and the lap after was just like, I hate this sport, and then immediately after I started loving it again. Genuinely, I 99.9% of the time I'm in love with what I do. I love reading about it, watching about it, doing it, training it, racing it. But burpees, every single race, no matter what format I do it in, no matter how much I train for it, I just hate it. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to overcome that sort of mental block, which it must be, because it's not like it's some sort of insane feat that you have to do in the middle of a race. It's just some bodyweight movement that you do for hopefully under 3 minutes. So
I was talking to someone in the gym today, and he'd seen a couple of your videos, and he said, "Oh, he's got fantastic burpee broad jump form." So yeah, he absolutely hates it though. Well, you're just tall for that. I mean, it's just not a great event for someone who's 6'4".
No, I've had
my height and 30 years younger.
Yeah, or shorter, ideally. But yeah, I've had to really nail my techniques. My technique on the burpee broad jumps is actually really quite good, but it's just learning to sort of pair that with familiarity with the movement, which I'm just not there yet. So yeah, burpees were horrible. The lap after was horrible, but the rest of the race was great.
The rest of the race?
What I found,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
the lunges
including...
as well. The lunges were,
What about the last bit of the race after the sled push? How did that go?
well, that I was getting to that, but I mean, there are clips of that. It's just awful. But yeah, so everything after that, the lunges didn't feel heavy. They were slow, but it was
Right.
more. I felt really tired. It's like 20 kg for lunges for me really isn't heavy at all. I was wanting it to be heavier,
Right.
but when I got to that point, because I was trying to push my run so hard, didn't feel heavy. I just felt really fatigued. So the lunges took a bit more time than I would have liked. But then yes, the last station, the sled push, which is open weight in Hyrox. So I was sort of going up to that. I was like, yeah, I'll be tired, but at the end of the day, it's open weight. Just getting there and knowing, because I had my friend on the sideline who was just pushing me through the whole time, Michael. So Michael, my doubles partner in Hyrox, was there pushing me. And just, I don't think I've ever been pushed that hard, that late in a race with that high of a heart rate before. And so I think all those things combined together with the motivation to sort of get as good of a time as I can and place in my age group was just all added up to the worst looking 200-meter run, 250-meter run I have ever done in my entire life. So, I mean, I put that on my Instagram and it is just...
it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. But then on the other hand, it's after a sled push. If there's anything that make your running look bad, it's doing a sled push immediately before that, isn't it? Even an open weight, it's still, you're going to be caning that sled push because it's more or less the last thing. So your quads are going to be screaming by the time you've done that, surely.
Yeah. So I mean, even in training, you can make 50 kg on a sled push hard if you just increase the intensity. So it's all about the intensity.
Right.
My heart rate was already, I think, 183, 184 going into that, and so doing 2 lengths unbroken at the end. After having already done 2 lengths, broken up, but the last 2 lengths were completely unbroken. I didn't think I could physically do that. And so being pushed beyond what I physically thought I was capable of doing, resulted in probably being the most tired I've ever been crossing a finish line.
Really?
But overall, great race experience, great practice, and just cool to come away with another flag.
And how do you feel the day after this compared to the day after a Hyrox? And compared to the day after a Deca, how does the day after compare for hybrid games, Hyrox and Deca, and your limited experience of 2 of those so far?
I think the worst is a pro solo Hyrox, I think, in terms of DOMs. Then this one, then Deca. But this one's kind of tainted because my recovery's been really limited. Like I wasn't able to get a lot of sleep at all after my race because number 1, caffeine, number 2, late race, number 3, had to get up super early to fly back to go to work in the morning. So my commute in the morning was from Glasgow to Crawley. So I mean that doesn't really, with an early flight, it doesn't really equate to very good recovery. I also didn't have much time to spin on the bike afterwards to flush out.
Oh, right.
All of the products in my legs.
Well, the products,
but yeah.
That sounds bad. What are you, juicing now?
Bad. Yes. Yeah, waste products. Bad. Bad.
Right.
So yeah, I didn't really have, and I also couldn't train this morning. And sometimes a light bit of training is the best thing if you're used to a high volume right after a race day to sort of get yourself back on track. So training this week, and sort of since the race has not been good or non-existent, just because I've been in the air or I've been at an airport. So really not ideal. But yeah, I'd say Deca's least bad for DOMs, then hybrid games, then pro Hyrox solo.
DOMs being delayed onset muscle soreness. Okay, so thank you for that. That's all about hybrid games then for the moment. Takes us on to the last couple of sections for today. First, thinking about last week's week of workouts, which means my first time wearing lifters in 2 years. So I bought a pair of Nike lifting shoes, January 23. Was quite excited about that. Well, that was back in CrossFit days. Then 2 weeks after that, I hurt my back. Didn't work out for a year. 2 months after that, blew out my chest. Didn't work out for 5 months. And now I've worn lifters again. It's very exciting. So I don't even remember much of what I was doing other than a bunch of back squats and other lifts that I was just incredibly excited about. And today doing push press, not wearing the lifters, but just using a barbell again is just so cool. I've missed it. But particularly getting to wear lifters with a relevant workout was cool.
Yeah, I think so that might sound like nothing, but when you're so into exercising and fitness and you've been injured and injured and injured and injured, the smallest wins seem massive. Like I was talking to George from theatre after my event on Sunday, and just like he's been suffering with a stress fracture, and like how obsessed he is with fitness and coming back from that, and then hearing obviously the little wins that you sort of make a big deal out of. Make a big deal out of. I just know I'd be the same. Like injury is more than getting robbed, snakes, sharks, I don't care. Being injured is my greatest fear in life, and I can imagine suffering from that. And then I can imagine just, being able to run like 5K at a slow pace, coming back if you've had months off could be a win. Whereas you just got to make sure if you're not injured for an extended period of time that you're grateful and you take advantage of that and you do the stuff to make sure that you don't get injured, because you will hate it.
We will definitely come back to a longer section about flexibility and mobility and how important that is. We probably need to do a whole pod about that, because the more I do it, the more important I'm realizing it is, and the more I'm tuned into listening to athletes talking about it, and the more they talk about what made the difference for them was a bunch of boring stuff for 20 minutes before and after each workout, and it's making a huge difference to me already. So what were your workouts? Did you taper at all for hybrid games, or were you full on right to the end of the week?
No, it wasn't a race that I tapered for. I feel like if you taper too much, you just lose out on fitness you could be gaining. So I didn't really taper for this one. I just trained straight through. Same Hyrox workouts that I have been doing. If you train for Hyrox, you train for hybrid games, really. You can't really say that, I didn't train for it, I was training for Hyrox. It's the same thing. As long as you can, lift a 20 kg dumbbell above your head 50 times, should be fine.
Right. Okay, cool. And workout of the week. I want to rewind us a couple of weeks first, back to the farmer's carry that you had us do, which was a deeply unpleasant experience, partly because I did it at midday in 30 degrees centigrade, which meant that there were rivers of sweat coming down my arms, and the fact that my arms are burning up anyway made the whole thing a nightmare. Someone on Instagram, Mum Life Rocks, said this was a brutal one. So then when we asked about whether her forearms were still intact, she said, well, no. And her problem was, and I scarcely want to even think about this, is that after doing your farmer's carry workout, she had a workout that included toes to bar. So her grip was completely toast before she started doing that, which I can well understand. I can't begin to think about. Last week we had the threshold running with a ski erg at the end, which wasn't going to kill us quite so much because you told us to dial it down a bit. So I did mine, as you said, more or less a 6 or 7 RPE, and felt okay by the end. It was more just the novelty of doing some threshold runs followed by a ski erg session, which was strange to me. And I did do the 1 minute 48 seconds precisely, because you explained that 1 minute 49 or 1 minute 47 and your fitness disappears. So I've made sure I was
useless.
Bang on 148. Absolutely good. Military about it. So, Jude, what do we have for this week's WOW?
This week's WOW, again, a little bit of a finisher, so something short and intense you could add on to the end of your main session. It's going to be 5 minutes, as many reps as possible with wobbles. I'm going to have you go 3 kg heavier than your race weight. So if you do pro men, you're going to look to do this with 12 kg. If you do open men, you're going to look to do it with 9. Open women, you're going to look to do it with 7. And then obviously pro women, you're going to look to do it with 9. So whatever your race weight is, 3 kg heavier, 5 minutes, as many reps as possible.
So for me, 9 kilos for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Which sounds like
adhering to Hyrox wobble standards, which,
Hyrox judging Sean Noble standards, where everything's no rep regardless, or Hyrox normal standards, where you need
below parallel.
Okay, right,
because I've seen form in the gym that I go to that just make my eyes bleed. By personal trainers, by people being personally trained. I mean, it is just. Anyway,
my issue is more the weight. And this is the whole American versus European. So I've got American wall balls in the gym that I go to, and so everything's in pounds. But I keep forgetting that Hyrox measures in kilos. So I was doing a bunch of workouts I'm doing some strength exercises with 15 to 20 wall balls in between, and I picked up the 6. And I'm repping out these 15 to 20 wall balls. I'm thinking, I am getting so much fitter. And I did that for like 2 weeks, and then I was like, oh no, that's pounds. That's not kilos.
Yeah. Oh,
so
you did that for weeks.
Now I've switched to kilos. I'm like, yeah,
that is
it's quite
embarrassing.
different.
It's like clients. Sometimes we'll play in the gym in Strive, the gym that I work at. I'll have clients that the weight has gone down on the like cable that they were lifting without them knowing, and they go back in and like rep it out for like 15. They're like, "Whoa, this felt so much heavier last week," and I was like, "I had pins 3 places up," and they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "Sorry." It's that kind of thing, you know. That's for weeks though. That's impressively naive.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I am impressively naive. I'm just marginally less fit than I thought I was for about 5 minutes back there. But I have learned my lesson. I am not, in fact, fit, which I found out today when I was trying to do some assisted pull-ups today, and it was a hot mess. I'm like, okay, yeah, I am too heavy and too flimsy.
When I come back to Cayman, I'll take you through them properly, I think.
Please. It is kind of embarrassing, and not at all manly. That's the other issue. If I'm going to be a proper man, I need to be doing pull-ups, right? That's how that works.
Wow, that's a hot take. Yikes, we're too early on for that type of statement.
And on that bombshell, we'll wrap things up. So next week, our main topic of conversation will be metrics. So you're competing at metrics next weekend in London somewhere. Whereabouts?
Yes, I'm competing in London
Yeah,
I don't know.
Somewhere
stadium.
in London.
Yep.
At a place in London. Take you through what metrics is, and hopefully by that time Jude will have found out where it is and will have competed, and we'll get his feedback on how that went. Fantastic. So we are going to finish with a quote.
Yes.
Hit us with
we
it, Jude.
Will. So he didn't prepare one, so I thought I'll take it upon myself to do it this week. It was actually given to me by one of the hybrid game judges at the sled push, and it was brilliant, and it just clicked with me in the moment, and it's gonna hurt anyway. And it hurt to hear, but I was like, that's so true. I'm like, I'm sat here resting in the middle of a lane, and it hurts. I push, and it hurts. I'm like, it's gonna hurt anyway. Why do I not just keep pushing through for the next 2 minutes? So I think it's gonna hurt anyway. Really, really good if you're just right at the red line and you're just at pretty much maximal effort with not much left to give. What do you think?
Cool. It's going to hurt anyway.
Yeah.
And on that note, I've been Paul Reynolds.
I've been Jude Reynolds.
Speak to you next week.